Hello booktube, hello book friends. Welcome back to my channel and another reading week catch up. This is the books I've been reading for the week ending April 26th, 2025. And it's been a quiet week on the reading front. I've finished two books, and at the time of recording, I'm, as the saying goes, between books. So what have I been reading? Well, the ultimate horror novel, apparently. Stephen King's Pet Sematary. This was a reread for me. I think I read it when I was originally about when I was about 14 years old. It's a book that I still fairly well remember the plot, but not the detail. It's been made into a couple of films. I remember watching one when I was I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. And another one's more recently. I don't think either of them really do the book justice. It's basically family moves to new house, discovers they have a pet cemetery on the property, and then various things happen. And yeah, I don't want to give the if you've never read it, I don't want to give the plot away. If you've read it, you know full well what I'm talking about. And it is, I think I probably enjoyed it more than I did when I originally read it. But yeah, there are some pretty nasty things happening in it, really. Yeah, and it is a proper horror story. And ultimately, probably one of Stephen King's best books, I think. It certainly made me want to go back and reread some of the earlier stuff that I read around the same time, like The Shining and things like that. It's also made me want to read some of the books that he's written more recently that have passed me by. Because although I've got quite a Stephen King collection, I did stop reading for a spell just because I kind of fell out of love with some of his stories. So yeah, so that it's been a worthwhile read of Pet Sematary for me, and I've got some more Stephen King news to talk about in a bit. But yeah, Pet Sematary, well worth a read if you haven't read it, and if you have, it's probably well worth a reread, particularly if it's been a while. So then I needed a bit of a palate cleanser after that, and for me that's kind of a comfort read. So I picked up a Dick Francis, again one that I've probably not read. So again another reread, but probably one that I've not read since I was about the same age or possibly a couple of years younger. It was originally written, I think it was originally written in 1965, if I remember rightly. Let me just, yeah, 1965. And I probably therefore read it kind of early mid 80s, something like that, I would guess. So it's now 60 years old, and I think stands up pretty well. Yeah, okay, there's a few slightly cringeworthy moments, but overall, I think it's stands up fairly well, as I said. The book is Odds Against, as I say, by Dick Francis. And going into this, I have to say, I didn't remember anything about the story or the plot. So although it was a reread, it was very much like I was reading it for the first time, apart from sentence, one sentence of 10 words that's for some reason I remember, and I don't know why I remember it. And I'm going to read it to you because I'd love somebody to tell me why. That there's some psychological, neurological reason why I've remembered it after all these years. And in fact, although it's 10 words, I only really remember the first 6 words of the sentence. So here's the sentence. The policeman drove on his gears, which I found tiring. And I only really remember the bit about drove on his gears. That's the bit that's in my head, and I vividly remember it. So if somebody can give me a scientific reason for that, I'd love to know. Answers in the comments. But yeah, this was I really, really enjoyed this. As I say, I don't remember anything about it whatsoever. It's one of his only novels that the character becomes a recurring character. So this is the first time the character appears, and then he recurs in about 3 or 4 books, I think. And he's only done that. I think there's another character who appears a couple of times, main character anyway, who appears a couple of times. But most of his books are just one-offs and don't have any recurring characters. But this is one that, although at the time wasn't a recurring character, did reappear at later stages. So yeah, another really good, really enjoyed this. I'm almost tempted again to just go and pick up another one straight away. Whether I will or not, I don't know. I haven't sort of decided what's next, but I did want to talk about my reading plans for May, or possibly my lack of reading plans for May. Normally what I do at the sort of before the beginning of the month is kind of pull together 5 or 6 books, and kind of have that as my TBR for the month, and I'll pick a book from that. And normally I can read, more than 6 books in a month. So I'll just kind of mood read around it. Sometimes I don't read all of the 6. I read others. This month I thought I would try something different. I have one commitment, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. But otherwise, I'm just going to mood read every book. I'm not going to have a TBR. I'm just going to take whatever book I fancy and read that. And I'm just curious to see what happens. Do I read more? Do I read less? Do I enjoy my books more? I found April reasonably hard because I've read a couple of tough books, so Times Echo and Dispatches, which were quite, great books, just hard reads. And you shouldn't shy away from reading hard books, but I'm just wondering if I don't have a sort of preset TBR, for want of a better term, am I going to read more? Am I going to read less? My goal was to enjoy my reading. Those 2 books, I won't say I didn't enjoy them, but they weren't necessarily enjoyable to read, if that makes sense. That's a bit of an odd thing to say, but I think you get the idea. They were hard books. I'm glad I read them. I enjoyed my reading month overall. But yeah, I wonder whether not having a kind of preset TBR will, I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'll let you know. The one commitment I do have is another Stephen King, and it was his this was published last year. You Like It Darker. It is a collection of short stories, and I'm going to be buddy reading this with Pat from Book Chat with Pat. We're going to do, it's got 12 stories in, I think. I hope so, because that's what I think we've agreed. Yes, 12 stories. So what we're going to do is read 3 a week for the month of May. It means that I think, if I've calculated the pages correctly, we kind of have a long week, a short week, a long week, and a short week, or something like that. in terms of page count. So it's not kind of evenly spread out across the month, other than the number of stories. But yeah, and of course May is Horror Mayhem, where you read short fiction. So it kind of fits with that as well. I'm really looking forward to reading with Pat. I don't know about the book so much. I've heard mixed things about it. Some people love it. Some people are a bit down on a couple of the stories. I can't remember which ones are good and which ones are supposed to be good and which ones are supposed to not be quite so good. But I am really looking forward to reading this, and yeah, keeping up with kind of reading newer Stephen King books. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously I'll let you know. And Pat and I are going to, I think, communicate via WhatsApp or Voxer or one of those platforms. So that's it for this update. Let me know what you're going to be reading in May. Are you taking part in Horror Mayhem? Have you got other plans? And I will speak to you again fairly soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.